Hello and welcome to my kitchen. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make Kaju Katli, which is an Indian sweet dish made with cashew nuts and sugar. And I'm going to show you today how to make it vegan. It's absolutely delicious. So let's get cooking. And make sure you watch till the end because I'm going to summarize all the tips on making Kaju Katli at home. Now for this recipe, I'm using 1.5 cups or 200 grams of raw cashew nuts. And the main part of this recipe is what you have to do is to grind up these cashew nuts. And you have to watch when you're grinding because you want to make sure that the cashew nuts do not release oil. If you grind them too much, they're going to start releasing the oil. Then you're going to have trouble sieving it because you want to sieve it to remove the larger particles of cashews so that you get a really nice smooth Kaju Katli. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now to grind the cashew nuts, I'm going to use my Blendtec blender with my small twist jar so that I can mix it around. And I'm going to be grinding a handful or two at a time. Now to grind the cashew nuts, you just want to pulse it a couple of times until you start to get fine crumbs. If you continue pulsing beyond this point, the cashew nuts will start releasing oil and you'll have trouble sieving it. Once you've ground up your cashew nuts, then go ahead and sieve them to remove any large bits of cashew nuts that remain. Then go ahead and put those large pieces of cashew nuts back in the grinder along with the remaining cashew nuts and follow the same procedure. Grind them up into a fine powder, then sieve them. When you get to the last pieces of cashew nuts that remain in your sieve, you can just grind them up into a really fine powder and then add those to the mix. This last bit of cashew nut powder that you've ground up will tend to have more oil because it's been ground a little bit longer. So make sure you crumble it all up nicely with your fingers. Now I'm getting ready to cook my Kaju Katli. I've got my 2.5 quart saucepan here. I also have a whisk because when I add the cashew nut powder to my sugar syrup, I want to make sure there are no lumps, and a whisk works really well for that. I also have a wooden spoon for stirring because you want to mix it really well. And this wooden spoon I use not for curries at all. I use this for making sauces or other things that are not that don't have strong smells. And I highly recommend that if you use a spoon that you use for curry, your sweet is going to have a slight curry flavor in it and you absolutely don't want that. So make sure you have a really nice clean wooden spoon. So I'm going to add 90 mils of water to the pan, and 90 mils is equal to 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons. And I'm going to start my stove on a medium-low heat. I'm going to add 130 grams or 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar to the water, and we're going to bring that to a boil. Now the sugar is starting to melt as the water comes to a boil, so I'm going to give it a quick stir. I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of rose essence and a pinch of cardamom powder. Now you can add both of these or just add one of them, whichever you prefer. Now that the water is boiling rapidly, I'm going to lower the heat and add the cashew nut powder in and whisk it so that it doesn't have any lumps in it. Then I'm going to cook it on a low heat and stir with my wooden spoon, making sure that it doesn't stick at the bottom. If you see any lumps in there, then just give it another quick whisk. I've been mixing this for about 2 minutes now, and now I'm going to add a teaspoon of coconut oil. If you're not vegan, you can use ghee instead of the coconut oil. You want to cook it until it starts coming away from the sides. If you overcook it, it's gonna get dry and you definitely don't want that. This has been cooking for about 5 minutes, and now I'm gonna add 1 more teaspoon of coconut oil to the mix. Keep stirring it until it starts to come away from the pan, and this could take 10 to 15 minutes. So you can see the mixture is coming away from the pan now, so that indicates that it's done. So I'm going to remove this to some greased parchment paper. So I'm just going to grease this with some coconut oil, and using my spatula I'm going to remove the mixture on top of the greased parchment paper. The mixture is very hot, so be very careful. Just move it around with your spatula. Then put another sheet of greased parchment paper on top, and you can roll it out, and it will still be quite hot at this point. You can let it cool and then roll it out, or do it while it's hot. Either way is fine, but don't let it cool too much. You want to roll it out until it's about 1/4 of an inch thick, or just over 1/2 centimeter. So this has been cooling for a good 10-15 minutes, and I'm going to try and cut it now. Okay, so it does look like it's cooled down enough. If yours is still sticky, then let it cool down a little bit longer. So what I'm doing is I'm actually just cutting these edges off so that I can make my Kaju Katli strips. Okay, so I have my nice little rectangle here. And I'm going to cut these equal strips. And then I'm just going to go across like this. The same width so that I can make diamond shapes. And there you go, you can see my beautiful Kaju Katli are cut. Now, as well as the traditional diamond shape of Kaju Katli, I actually like to use these cutters to make wonderful, like it's got hearts, leaves, stars, triangles. So I'm going to make different shapes of the Kaju Katli as well, and this is available on my website. So if you want one of these, definitely check it out. I absolutely love it. And then with these odd bits here, I'm going to cut out my shapes. And then with these scraps, you can just put them back into a ball, and then if you need them softened up a little bit, just pop them in the microwave for about 10 seconds at a time until it's softened up a little. So you see, it's not that difficult to make Kaju Katli at home, and I made it vegan, and honestly there is no compromising on the taste. It's absolutely delicious. So there are definitely some tips you need to know when making Kaju Katli at home. Number 1, you need to make sure that you do not overgrind the cashew nuts because they release oil and it makes it really hard to sieve them. Number 2, make sure you cook the mixture properly because if it's not cooked, it's really going to be sticky and very hard to manage. Number 3, make sure that you don't overcook the mixture because if it's overcooked, once it's cooled, it will become really hard and crumbly and it is very difficult going back to the like original stage or the stage before if it gets too hard. But having said that, I did overcook it one time, and what I ended up doing was adding some more water to the mixture, grinding everything together so it became another like sticky, gluey concoction inside my blender. And then I reheated it and got it to the stage that I needed to get it, and it did work, and there was no compromising on the texture or the taste. So you can go back from it, but it's very difficult. Number 4, make sure you let the mixture cool completely on the parchment paper. You can roll it while it's hot, but before you start cutting, make sure it is completely cool, because it will stick to your knife, it'll stick to your cutting shapes, and it will be a royal mess, and you'll think, oh my God, it just didn't work. Let it cool to the temperature of your hand. So it's got to be like lukewarm before you start cutting. The final thing is once you make the Kaju Katli, initially the texture will be a lot softer and maybe a little bit sticky, and that's okay. As you put it into your container, after a day or two, it will start to dry out. So depending on how you like it, if you like it moist, then eat it quickly. If you like it more crumbly, then leave it for a few days and it will start to dry out gradually. I hope you guys definitely try out this recipe because it is absolutely delicious. And if you enjoyed my video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all soon for some more cooking inspiration. So good. I've got to stop myself. Okay, don't eat anymore. Oh, it's just so good. Stop myself.